ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति 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 नमस्ते दोस्तों नमस्ते नमस्ते I will describe what is Jivan Mukti or liberation. So I'll start this. Please listen and concentrate and try to understand and contemplate. This is a very, very important practice in our life. Okay, we all want unlimited happiness and work for it. The means adopted to attain it are different for different people. Some think, some think that happiness lies in getting rich and earning a lot of money, some in sexual enjoyment, some in acquisition of house property and possession of things capable of increasing their comfort and enjoyment, some in marriage and having children, etc. All people work hard to attain happiness by adopting one or the other of the means described above, but happiness eludes them more often than not, as all these instruments for happiness result ultimately in causing misery and unhappiness. On the contrary, unforeseen accidents and calamities which we had never dreamed of faces all of a sudden. In despair, people cry out, Lord, why all this to me? What have I done to deserve this suffering? Sages and saints like Vasishtha and Adi Sankara have found that because of the wrong identification of the self with the body mind complex, each person considers himself as the doer of all actions, that is karta, and the experiencer of their fruits, that is bhokta. This false identification results in considering oneself as a bound, limited, and finite individual, which in its turn leads one to miseries, sorrows, and sufferings. A child does not know that a bulb and the electricity in it are not one unit. All differences in age from date of manufacture, capacity, that is wattage, form, color, place of origin, manufacture, and mortality due to breakage, etc., belong to the bulb, and electricity in all the bulbs is only one continuous stream of energy. Similarly, the unhappy people are ignorant that even though the bodies, that is just like bulbs, are different and subject to birth, old age, and death, the consciousness in all the bodies is one and the same. It is the mind which creates the false impression that each one is an individual entity by identifying the self with the bodies. This is clear from the fact that during sleep, when the mind ceases to work, we are not aware of either the body or the individuality. Then we revel in the bliss of the totality of undifferentiated consciousness. Similarly, pain and pleasure, joy and sorrow, happiness and suffering are all mere thoughts and fabrications of the mind due to the false identification of the self with the body mind complex. Anyone who realizes the truth through self enquiry, that is, questioning who am I, annihilation of the mind, the non mind state called manonasa, etc., is able to de-link himself from the body and identify himself with the supreme consciousness, that is Sat Chit Ananda, Satchidananda, and thus gets liberated from this illusion, resulting in cessation of sorrows. This state of liberation is called mukti, and many believe that this state of perennial bliss can be attained only after death as a result of a lifetime of spiritual practice, that is sadhana. Sri Ramakrishna Paramhansa says, why speak of God realization in the future? It is here and now. Only the will that hides it has to be destroyed. When the veil falls to pieces, that which eternally is shines forth the one self luminous. The philosophy of non-dualism, that is Advait Vedanta, preached by the Upanishads, as also sages like Dattatreya and Adi Sankara, promises liberation while still alive and not necessarily one after death. This liberation while living is called Jivan Mukti, and those who have attained it are called Jivan Muktas. Paramhansa Ramakrishna and Maharishi Ramana, these two sages, they were Jivan Mukta, and they have proved each and every aspect of Upanishads true. They were the real Jivan Muktas of the last century. If liberation or mukti is to result only after death, many would not be inclined to believe in it, as nobody will be able to verify whether it really happened or not. While on the other hand, liberation while yet living is capable of direct verification. This was in case of Paramhansa Ramakrishna and Maharishi Ramana. All this phenomena was completely verified. The one who is able to perceive the one eternal being only in all the individual being is called Jivan Mukta. While Bhagavad Gita has not used the term Jivan Mukta as such, some scholars believe that the other terms Sathita Prajna, steadfast in wisdom, and Gunatita, one who has transcended the three modes, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, are identical with Jivan Mukta, the one who is aware of his identity with the Supreme Brahma, which is immanent in all beings in an undifferentiated manner. The same idea regarding the essence of Jivan Mukti has been forcefully brought out by Adi Sankara in his Sarva Vedanta Sara Sangraha. Thus, I am the Supreme Being, Brahma. I am the Brahma. I am the Brahma. I am the consciousness. I am the consciousness. The one who is fully convinced of this and remains as such is a Jivan Mukta. In the forthcoming chapters, while a brief mention will be made of the methods of becoming a Jivan Mukta, which are no different from the entire gamut of sadhanas prescribed in the various religious, spiritual texts and scripture for attaining liberation, that is moksha. The various distinguishing characteristics of a Jivan Mukta will be discussed in greater detail. Besides serving other purposes, studying the common characteristics of a Jivan Mukta, his inherent qualities, his code of conduct, how he behaves in the normal day-to-day life, etc., by itself constitutes one of the easy methods for attaining Jivan Mukti here and now. What are the various means for attaining Jivan Mukti? There are two major methods of sadhana for attaining Jivan Mukti. Number one, with effort, and the other without effort. If one can get liberation without any physical or mental effort, who would be foolish enough to adopt sadhanas involving effort, which rituals, japa, chanting of mantras or sacred syllables, puja, formal worship of idols, etc., breath control, pranayama, observance of various disciplines like celibacy, non-violence, non-stealing, non-accumulation of possessions, etc. The matter is not so simple, and the sages who have evolved such elaborate spiritual practices were certainly men of no mean wisdom. The following story will illustrate this point. A rich man, fully drunk and in a state of thorough intoxication, sitting in the drawing room of his own house in a city, say Delhi, called his car driver at 3 p.m. one day and ordered him to bring out the car from the garage and to take him to his house as it was quite late. The driver was perplexed and diffidently told his master, Sir, this is your own house where you are sitting. Where else should I take you? The master rebuked him, saying, I do not want drivers who argue with me. I want unquestioning, implicit obedience. Do what I told you. The driver adopted a ruse. He drove his master through various distant parts of Delhi and brought him back to the same house by 10 p.m. The master felt happy and having come out of his inebriation exclaimed, Oh, now we have arrived. So long as we remain entangled in the multi tentacles of illusions and delusions, intoxicated by Maya, the divine will which is responsible for our wrong identification and consequent delusion, we have to start and proceed by the apparently tortuous and strenuous paths involving effort, even though ultimately the seeker is the sought. When who is seeking? Atma. Whom the Atma is seeking? Himself. So seeker and the seeker. Huh? Sought. Same. Atma is seeking Atma. When once in a particular birth we start with a mind already purified and spiritually mature, we shall be enabled to go by easier and direct paths where no effort is involved. For example, dissolution of all desires, including for mukti, by adopting a witness attitude of choiceless perception and an unconditional acceptance of all occurrences and events, good or bad, favorable or unfavorable. The two primary means prescribed for Jivan Mukti are number one, dissolution of the mind and effacement of desires, that is vasanas. The Upanishads declare that when once all the desires are obliterated thoroughly and nipped at the very source, which is the heart, the individual who is subject to birth and death becomes immortal. He attains self realization here and now. The dissolution of desires leads one to a still mind, ultimately to the stage of no mind, when all thought cease permanently. Cessation of sorrows, freedom from fear, perennial peace, and entitlement, all these rest on the dissolution of control of mind, Mandukya Karika of Gaudapadacharya. The one way to control the mind is by gradual study of scriptures and philosophy, giving rise to the conviction of the unreality of the objects of the world. This results in indifference and non-attachment to the worldly objects, that is vairagya. Seeking the company of evolved souls and sannyasin is also an equally effective method to bring about control of mind and effacement of desires. One of the most direct and instantaneous methods to achieve Jivan Mukti bypassing the aforesaid methods has been propounded by Ashtavakra. He was a great Advait Vedanti sage. He was during the days of King Janaka. Have first that firm conviction that I am not the body mind complex. Know well that you are as separate from the body as electricity is from the bulb. Hence, the limitations of the body, death, old age, disease, suffering, etc., do not apply to yourself. The electrical energy inside a bulb can never be destroyed. So let one practice sitting for a few hours each day, absolutely relaxed and not necessarily in any particular posture, in the garden or some place of solitude, free from all distractions of visitors, including mobile or other telephones, etc., used in modern times. Be aware of nothing else except the feeling of bare existence and being alive. That is, I am. Be happy in that feeling. Do not think of the body and do not add any qualification to the feeling of amness, such as I am a woman, I am aged 30 years, I am an Indian, I am an engineer, I am having headache, etc. Simply be. If your eyes are open, do not see things specifically or distinguish the object. Do not distinguish various noises. Remain in the totality of an uncritical, unjudging, undistinguishing, and undifferentiated perception. Do not think I am, just remain in the consciousness that is the feeling of your existence, like a newborn child which has no vocabulary to think but revels in its pulsating existence. If one can permanently remain in this state, which can be attained through practice here and now, one can get Jivan Mukti. There are many more such instant moksha capsules in Ashtavakra Gita Samhita. Similarly, if one contemplates daily on one or more of the more important common characteristics of inherent qualities of a Jivan Mukta de- delineated in the next chapter, allows it to seep into one's entire being and percolate into and permeate every cell of one's body and heart, one will become a Jivan Mukta. What is most important for attaining Jivan Mukti is to engage oneself solely in the pursuit of self knowledge. In this path, the main impediment is the mind, which will not allow one to concentrate on the only goal. For this purpose, aggressive and suppressive methods will be of no avail. The mind is mainly contaminated by attachment and hatred, likes and dislikes, feelings of enmity and love, etc. The refractory mind should be fondled and with gentle persuasions brought to equipoise, where it will remain as a silent witness. Repeated, persistent, and patient efforts for a long time will be necessary till one reaches the conviction of the one self immanent in all beings. Despite all the knowledge of the characteristics and inherent nature of a Jivan Mukta at the tip of our fingers, it is not at all easy to spot out and recognize a Jivan Mukta from the multitude of people without the grace of Supreme Being and unless the Jivan Mukta wills it so. The Jabala Upanishad speaks of Jivan Muktas as those who wear no distinguishing insignia or marks to denote their caste, tradition, station in life, that is, householder or sannyasi or other categories, and will have a nondescript and very common man-like personality. They will not adhere to any specific code of conduct, and many behave sometimes like madmen, though not mad in the least, sometimes like those possessed by the devil, and more often than not like children. Seshadri Swamigal of Tiruvannamalai Thiruvannamalai used to behave like a madman. He used to enter into any house and throw away all the food cooked and kept ready. He used to throw away the goods kept in some of the shops into the mud. All those people with whom he behaved like that got immense material prosperity and spiritual benefits too. Swami Nityananda of Vajraeshwari near Bombay used to threaten, abuse, and throw stones at people who dared visit him in his cave, like a man possessed, and used to fill the hands of children with sweets and toffees. Jesus Christ was once feeling hungry and approached a fig tree by the side of the road. He found nothing at all on the tree except leaves. Disappointed, he pronounced, "May no fruit ever come from you again." The fig tree withered at once. That this is in St. Matthew 21-18. Is not this act like that of a child which chides the ground where it happens to stumble and fall? No, notwithstanding all the problems of recognition, a Jivan Mukta has a distinct and subtle fragrance of his own which refuses to remain hidden, a divine glow on his face, and an undeniable vibration emanating from his body, bestowing peace, soothing, and calming the agitated minds of those aspirants who happen to meet him. These vibrations will reveal themselves more forcefully to those who have developed an intuitive insight on account of the spiritual practices sadhanas done by them, and those who are equipped with the knowledge of the general characteristics of Jivan Mukta. What do we gain by recognizing a Jivan Mukta? Number one, if once we can recognize Jivan Mukta, we may seek and cultivate his holy company satsanga. Keeping such company of the holy man alone can lead us to the state of Jivan Mukti as averred by Srimad Bhagavatam. If one is lucky enough, one may be able to choose such a Jivan Mukta as one's personal guru, preceptor. That alone is sufficient to make mukti, liberation, a fate accomplished. Number two, many self-styled teachers and aspirants who treat the spiritual path and claim to have had some experience like seeking a light, hearing the home sound or supernatural voices, seeing some visions of God or divine realms, realms, acquiring some mystic powers like materialization of the objects just by thinking of them, or divining the thoughts in another's mind through telepathy, etc., are apt to be something deluded into thinking that they have become enlightened Jivan Muktas. Now, this is all a bar, this is a checkmate. This is a hurdle in the path of liberation. So, these are called siddhis. They are dangerous. They are not good for sadhakas. A knowledge of the essential characteristics of a Jivan Mukta will serve as a checklist for self assessment as to whether or not they have actually reached that state or not. One of the simplest acid tests given in the scriptures is that any saint who is interested in collection and accumulation of money and prosperity for whatever noble reasons it may be, as also anybody who is interested in sexual sports, cannot be a knower of the self. Incidentally, such a knowledge about Jivan Muktas would protect an aspirant from falling into a wrong company under a delusion. Thirdly, even those who seek material prosperity and advancements tend to benefit by going to Jivan Muktas whose very presence confers on them the fulfillment of all other desires. Many people are fascinated by the various mystic powers demonstrated by some persons who are mistakenly taken to be Jivan Mukta. In Yoga Vasishtha, Sri Rama poses a beautiful question: why is it that the Jivan Muktas never demonstrate the mystic powers, siddhis, like journeying through the sky, levitations, etc.? The reply given by Maharishi Vasishtha is ordinary persons still in the bondage of the phenomenal world who have not had self realization can cultivate such powers through certain occult means. A knower of the self, a Jivan Mukta will not go after the acquisition of such powers, siddhis, as he is wholly content. This is in Laghu Yoga Vasishtha in his own self, and these mystic powers are all products of ignorance. What to speak of the glory of a Jivan Mukta, even long after a Jivan Mukta leaves his body. The Samadhi where the body lies entered continues to confer fulfillment of the material desires as immense spiritual benefits to the devotees who circumambulate the samadhi and or pray to that saint. Those disembodied saints also become the gurus of some earnest seekers and continue to guide them. It is presumably because wide Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the vital life force, prana, and the forces responsible for speech, etc. of a Jivan Mukta do not go anywhere else after death but continue to be earthed and absorbed in that very place, historically in the omnipresent Brahma. Thus, the vibrations continue for a very long time. To cite an instance, one Mr. Dixit of Bangalore, an ex-Air Force officer settled in the USA, had come to Sri Ramana ashram at Trivannamalai during late 2000, early 2001. One day, he straight barged into my room in the evening and began to rave and rant as to how he came to the ashram with a lot of spiritual expectations and found that the ashram had deviated from the path of knowledge instructed by Bhagwan Ramana, and hence he was going back the next day morning sorely disappointed by not having attended anything in the ashram. I was gazing at him helplessly. The next day, early in the morning, he again came to my room with bag and baggage and with tears in his eyes and told me, Swamiji, I am sorry for my ramblings yesterday. I have since got what I wanted. In fact, Bhagwan Ramana has given me more than what I bargained for. He went away immediately, even before I could ask him as to what he had wanted and what he got. The Swami, oh, the Swami just mentioned is Swami Shantanandagiri. He has written this piece about Jivan Mukti. So, dear friend, the remaining part of this article I will describe in the next video. So, thank you for patiently listening to this video. Please press subscribe my channel, like, comment, and please share the video. Thank you. Namaste. Namaste.